Thank you, friend. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining me once again. I received some fantastic mail from you, and it really helps to find the things you want to hear and learn about, and I do so very much appreciate it. I'm extremely grateful that you continue to devote some of your precious time, the one irreplaceable commodity we all have, with me. Of course, it does mean that my top 10 changes all the time. Now, what a week we just had, friends. It was the anniversary of Kristallnacht, a.k.a. the Night of Broken Glass, that infamous November 9th night, November 10th day that perhaps in some ways has never ended, and that truly marked the end for the Jews in Nazi Germany and ushered in the era of the concentration camps. We had the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, which marked the end of that Cold War and began the process of German reunification, which I am sure worried more than a few of us. Hard to believe it has been 25 years. I just don't think that I am that much older from when those events took place. And this week we also mark Veterans Day, or Remembrance Day, when we give thanks to all who have given their lives in the service of their countries. Thank you, veterans, for all of your sacrifices. It began as a memorial for the fallen of World War I, the war to end all wars. And I guess that name isn't quite apropos anymore, is it? Perhaps instead it marked the dawning of a new age and type of war and ushered in what must almost seem like a never-ending age of war. Friends, I just came back from Ekbalam, a city built over the course of about 1,000 years, but which had its beginnings around the year 1. What an amazing, simply amazing place that it was. While there, I sat in a cave and looked out at the architecture and construction of a model of the crossroads of time and space, a picture indelibly etched in my mind. And had I brought my camera, perhaps I would have been able to share it with you all. You know, every time I see how incredible man's mind was long, long ago, I wonder what happened and how he let his ego get so out of control. And friends, the other day, while I was away in channel surfing, looking for an English-speaking show, I came across the news, Fox and Friends, I think it was, and they listed 5 things that they said it's okay to lie to someone you are dating about, including your full name, what your proper job title is, what's in your 5-year plan, things that bother you, and your zip code. Well, I hate to tell you, but a lie is a lie is a lie. Friends, it is still a lie. It is never good to lie. There is no such thing as a white lie. I'm reminded of that great Steve Goodman version of "It's a sin to tell a lie. Just be sure when you say I love you. It's a sin to tell a lie. Millions of hearts are broken just because those words were spoken." And sure enough, I was rewatching an episode of The Goldbergs, and the little kid was caught in a lie between what he said to his mother and what he said to his girlfriend. And all 3 ended up in angst because of the lie. Lies compound. There is no such thing as an okay lie. And I was really surprised that they would come across and say that it's okay to lie. This week, my friends, we will meet a person we come to consider a liar. We will also come across an incredibly significant rabbinic ruling, which is really failing and falling by the wayside, as well as key parts of the pre-wedding ceremony as we continue moving through the Torah at breakneck speed. We whip through creation and cosmic miracles to begin to examine a family, and we're then whisked away on the wings of angels. And now we see the passing of the mantle. And as I read this parsha, I thought of Bob Dylan's words. I've moved your mountains and marked your cards. Your hearts must have the courage for the changing of the guards. This week we read, Chaya Sarah, the life of Sarah. And Sarah's life was 100 years, and 20 years, and 7 years, the years of Sarah's life. Friends, that is about all we are told in a parsha called The Life of Sarah, about the first and possibly the least important of the matriarchs. The genealogy which ended last week's parsha was a segue for us to hear about the birth of Rebecca, because we are in for a changing of the guard, and in many ways the birth of feminism. Although I did hear there is talk now of banning the word feminist. I do not know why, but it was on the news, and we know the news never lies. Oh well. You see, the life of Sarah is not really about Sarah. It's about the power of the divine feminine and its capacity for selfless love. And just as the Akita was the passing of the mantle of patriarchy to Isaac, the life of Sarah is the passing of the mantle of matriarchy to Rebecca. I, a woman, watch me grow, see me standing toe to toe as I spread my loving arms across the land. But I'm still an embryo with a long, long way to go until I make my brother understand. Thank you, Helen Reddy. What a great song. What you will notice, my friends, is that Rebecca is the true progeny of Abraham. It is she who personifies the acts of kindness which Abraham established. And just as she was the true heir, the true seer was Abraham's servant, an unnamed fellow who some of our sages gave a name to. For it was he who recognized the role that kindness needs to play in life and in love. But first, let us go back and see an amazing exchange between Abraham and the Hebronites. Sarah has died, and Abraham wants to buy a tomb. And he says he is an alien and a visitor, and wants to buy a tomb so he may bury his dead. What is incredible in the exchange, my friends, is again the amazing foreshadowing of what is to come. See, first of all, Abraham's the alien in the land, and one day this land will belong to his descendants. Second, the people will be commanded over 15 times in the Torah to treat aliens well. Wow, have we got that right yet? Third, Israelites must be fair to non-Israelites who live in Israel, because once they were the aliens in that land. And fourth, because they were aliens in Egypt, in Exodus we will be told, you know the alien's soul, because you were aliens in the land of Egypt. Wow. He wants the cave of Machpelah, and will pay full price for it. Machpelah means double, and some believe it had a double burial chamber, and that already interred there were Adam and Eve. And it would subsequently become not just Abraham and Sarah's tomb, but the tomb of Isaac and Rebekah, and then Jacob and Leah. The double chamber also represents two paths we may follow, my friends, two paths to spiritual growth. The first, by reasoning and analysis, and the other, by integrity and holiness. And our goal is to connect them. He buys it for 400 shekels of silver. And friends, there has been much debate over time about Abraham being swindled and overpaying for this. We are told by commentators that this is a king's ransom. And many jump on this to emphasize how taken advantage of that Abraham was. But friends, not only does the Torah never say Abraham felt cheated, but it actually is telling us just how wealthy he must have been. So good for you, Abraham. And perhaps he's lucky it didn't get listed on eBay. You know, for the tomb of Adam and Eve, wow, he might have had to pay a lot more. Friends, it was more than just a cave. It was all the surrounding land also. But yes, it is a lot of money. But we pay what something is worth to us. And I wonder who hasn't felt at times that they have overpaid on something. But it was worth it to you to do so for whatever reason. We do the right things at the right times for who and where we are in that karmic watch wheel of life. We don't always know where we are or why, and we each move at a different speed. We would love the universe to move according to our clocks, and sometimes it can be so hard for us to realize that we move on the universe's time. Take a look sometime at the wheels that move the hands of a watch. The second hand moves pretty quickly, the minute hand a little slower. But how about a hand that counts the months? Or even still for those with perpetual watches, what about a leap year hand? It, my friend, moves real slow. We don't always know where we are or when that wheel will come back around. And sometimes we get upset when our loved ones are on a different wheel than us. There is actually a divine plan for everyone. You do not always know what it is or how it unfolds. That's what makes hindsight so fantastic. You can look back and see how you ended up where you are by the choices you made. And what's more, if you step even further back and got an even wider perspective, you would actually see where you were going. We know Abraham paid a lot for this land, and we know that God said the choice of Abraham would be a blessing to mankind. We perhaps just have not seen that wheel come back around. Genesis 23:19 says, "And after that Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, at the cave of the field of Machpelah. It is Hebron, in the land of Canaan." Friends, the story of Sarah's death begins and ends in Hebron, and serves as a means of demonstrating to us all that the family of Abraham has unquestionable title to this property. And of course, the debate as to which branch has that right, unfortunately, still continues. Abraham now turns his attention to Isaac. Although it's not readily apparent, Abraham commands a death vow from his servant to get Isaac a wife. This, my friends, tells us the Torah here is definitely out of sequence. In Genesis 24:3, Abraham says, "That you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanite, in whose midst I dwell, but to my land and to my birthplace you shall go, and you shall take a wife for my son, for Isaac." And friends, this simple line has been taken as the root for the rabbinic rule not to intermarry. Don't forget the controversy we saw last week. Don't take a Canaanite, but take a woman from the land of my birth. But the servant is going to Haran, not to Ur. A conundrum not worth fretting about. And the servant is not allowed to take Isaac with him. If he does and Abraham dies, there's no need to return. Yes, my friends, the Torah is telling us this is Abraham's deathbed wish. An angel or messenger who we never hear about and we never read another word about shall precede them to do the groundwork. And the servant tells God what the miracle he expects should be. Talk about burning off the first wish from the lamp. No man has gone this far with God before. Not any of the biblical greats we have read about. Abraham's servant shall be the first. And this tells us that anyone can talk to God and tell him or her what they need. The condition of Rebekah, or whoever, being the one, is kindness, the trait not just associated with Abraham, but with an entire people. And the servant tells us in Genesis 24:27, "Yahweh has led me to the house of my Lord's brother." Abraham married his sister. His son will marry his cousin. At least they are expanding the gene pool a little. And Rebekah's brother comes out, and we are told his name is Laban, who will play such an important role in the Jacob saga, and who we will view as a liar and a scoundrel. And friends, when Laban and Rebekah's mother bless her, we are presented with what will be one of the blessings performed in the Bedekin ceremony, held shortly before a wedding. What you need to keep in mind as you read this is that we have witnessed a reverse to a betrothal scene involving a surrogate, something completely unheard of and which will never be seen in the Torah again. The betrothal scene, my friends, involves travel to a foreign land, an encounter there with the future bride, almost always referred to as Na'ara, young woman, almost always at a well. There's the drawing of the water, followed by the hurrying or running to bring the news of the stranger's arrival, and then a feast at which a betrothal agreement is concluded. Perhaps one of the most familiar to people is from the film The Ten Commandments, with Moses driving off the ruffians and watering Jethro's sheep at the well, followed by the feast when he chooses Zipporah. Now, the film took a few liberties, but it captured the betrothal scene really well for people to see. You will also notice that Laban readily agreed to the betrothal, but would be much more difficult in the Jacob betrothal coming later. Why? Did the Jacob version simply emphasize his character more? The servant takes Rebekah and her maids to Isaac, who is wandering by his home. She sees Isaac walking in the distance and asks the servant who it is and is told, "And she took a veil and covered herself." This, my friends, is the second half of the reason for a veil at a Jewish wedding. Both parts of the Bedekin ceremony come from this parsha, and I have seen more and more brides requesting the Bedekin ceremony at the weddings that I perform. Note also, my friends, in Genesis 25:11, where Isaac lives. He lived at the well of Lahai Roi, the place where Hagar was told by an angel that she would give birth to Ishmael. We said we wanted to view this look at the Torah with more of a what-if perspective. So what if Isaac recognizes that his miraculous birth and his being spared from sacrifice have given him everything that otherwise would have been Ishmael's? Wow, there is so much to think about, my friends, so many subplots and karmic twists. And two lines stand out which come next, and which are pretty well hardly ever commented on, but tell enormous amounts of what was happening. Isaac brought her to his mother Sarah's tent, and Isaac was consoled after his mother. For Isaac to bring her to his mother's tent, his father must be dead. But don't forget, friends, this precedes the story of Abraham's subsequent marriage to Keturah. The sequence is out of order. There's a great lesson here. Do not read this book as a history that flows from start to finish. It is the story of the relationship between the deity and man, with several twists and turns and backstory events and editing. So the real essence of this parsha, my friends, is about the divine feminine in the story of Rebecca, with the incredible reversal of roles taking place. Use your knowledge of what you know is coming. We know from the future that she is forceful and enterprising. Think about what you see take place. First of all, she performs the task of the betrothal scene, not him. Second, she journeys to Isaac. He goes nowhere. Third, Isaac was the epitome of passive. He was different from the other patriarchs. He was acted upon by his father and then by his wife and sons, a unique role for a patriarch. Perhaps the order should have been Abraham, Rebecca, and Jacob. And perhaps in today's world of gender neutrality, that is how it would be. As Annie Lennox sang, there was a time when they used to say that behind every great man there had to be a great woman. But in these times of change, you know that it's no longer true. So we're coming out of the kitchen because there's something we forgot to say to you. We are sisters. They're doing it for themselves, standing on their own 2 feet, ringing on their own bells. Sisters are doing it for themselves. Rebecca stands alone among the matriarchs, forging a future with strength and cunning, and filling the emotional gap left by Sarah's death. She takes just like a woman. Yes, she does. She makes love just like a woman. Yes, she does. She aches just like a woman, but she breaks just like a little girl. Thank you, friends. I appreciate the time you give me to listen, to watch, to share, to care, to send out energy to those in need. And if you have any questions or comments, I remind you to please send them in. In the meantime, be well, be happy, be healthy, be in love. Blessings to you all. See you soon. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining me.